Can you imagine the military spending of Israel is, I think it was last year something around $25 billion, and it was just representing almost 5% of the country's gross domestic product, and it is 1% of the global share. So, in the past few years, we have seen the war is changing, and the main actor of the changing wars have been non-state actors, which we define as surrogate warfare. So, surrogate warfare explores the emerging phenomenon of surrogate warfare in 21st century conflict. So, the popular notion of war is that it is fought en masse by the people of one side versus the other. But the reality today is a little different. Actually, not a little, but there's a big difference. So the both states, they're just using non-state actors, and they're increasingly looking to shift the burdens of war to surrogate. So surrogate warfare means externalizing the burden of warfare to armed non-state actors, cyber warfare, or another actors, so which makes everything much more difficult compared to previous years, because we don't see any conventional warfare anymore. In the past a few years, exporting and importing weaponry is not just about selling weapons. It's also part of surrogate warfare, which paves the way to stay away from internal political pressure. So rather than sending forces to the regions, selling weapons to your surrogates and weaponizing your non-state actors is much easier, considering it is the main advantage of surrogate warfare, which means not taking any risks directly and not facing your enemy directly, but through the non-state armed actors you have chosen. So it's also a big economy, considering how many groups you can provide with weapons you have been producing. So it's not just states, but it's also illegal economy as of today. So you cannot count the money, how much it has been spent on non-state actors. So it has got just bigger and bigger day by day. Economic contribution first started with France, because since the establishment of Israel, the first started supporting Israel. It was not United States, but it was France, the Netherlands, and some other European countries. And when Israel started struggling to get necessary ammunition and weaponry from these countries, and particularly after the Six-Day War, U.S. directly got involved. U.S. legislators have historically regarded Israel as a dependable ally in safeguarding the nation's, the United States' strategic interest throughout the Middle East. So as I told you, it happened following the Six-Day War. So according to United States Congressional Research Service, there are several factors that contribute to the ongoing military assistance provided to Israel. So these include domestic United States support for Israel, common strategic interests, and a shared dedication to what they call as democratic values. So in 2023, United States military spending on Israel surpassed $3.8 billion, so which is part of a record-setting $40 billion 10-year engagement agreement signed in 2016 by former President Barack Obama. So as you can see, even though the presidents keep changing in the United States, and they're from different political backgrounds, the strategy is the same, which is to support Israel until the end. So the United States has provided Israel with a cumulative summary of more than 120 billion in military and defense assistance from 1964. So Israel has received almost $4 billion in military aid thus far this year, and of which $500 million has been allocated to missile defenses. So the United States has declared its intention to resupply Israeli munitions that were employed against Hamas in the most recent conflict. So an additional allocation of funds for Tel Aviv is anticipated from the Biden administration, considering the Iron Dome system, which keeps firing dozens of missiles every single day to prevent Hamas rockets. These companies, even though they look like private companies, they're under state control. Just like in Turkey, in Pakistan, in United States. So even though it's kind of a private industry, when it comes to weaponry sales abroad, the states directly involved. So you cannot sell or buy anything without their permission, but their sales also account for the export and import of the country. So this is a big business, and Lockheed Martin is just one of the companies. So there are more than thousands of companies like this, and they're just they're producing variety of weaponry services to several actually dozens of countries across the world, based on the interests of the countries where they produce. Israel needs to procure much more missiles each day, and which is not sustainable. It creates economic pressure on the government of Netanyahu, just like a military pressure, and it also has an impact in terms of internal economy, because considering what happened in the past 4 weeks, it is not just Palestine who are suffering from this war, but it's also Israeli public. And even though the Western media never shows it, there are ongoing protests against Netanyahu because they're not able to open their shops. They're not able to operate their own economy, which increases the pressure on Israel, and which also encourages them to get more and more weapons each day to put an end to this conflict. So the system is just bringing another obstacle with itself. It's not just warfare, but warfare brings several other conditions to a particular society that just imposes a massive pressure on each side, and not just the politicians. So it is just a never-ending circle. And I just gave you the example of Iron Dome system. So can you imagine the military spending of Israel is, I think it was last year something around $25 billion. And it was just representing almost 5% of the country's gross domestic product. And it is 1% of the global share. So normally you target the official sites of another country, official military sites of another country, and while doing so, you just need to have some missiles. But when it comes to guerrilla warfare, city wars, it is really different, because can you imagine you're gonna need some technological tools to discover what's happening in a city, and you just need to have some particular devices to stay away from every single threat that would come from your enemy. So it's gonna be a big expenditure, and it will cost Israel much more than expected in Gaza.